Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
We are here with Kristopher Lincoln. And Kristopher and I have been friends. We were just talking for a long, long time, but it's been at least 30 years since we've actually seen one another, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah. So we keep in touch, but um, I really want to just start out by talking about how we met and kind of what's happened in your life since then. And one of the things that we've shared over time is that people never like arrive at, oh, I've got it all together. And life is a constant journey. So it's how we respond to what happens that matters most. And so you, more than many, have been through it. And I really want to have that conversation about the connections that keep you getting up every day and taking another step forward. So we'll start by we met because we worked together at a really high-end spa in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And you got pregnant and had a little baby named Ellie. She was beautiful. And she ended up passing away. You can tell us a little bit more about that when you tell your story in just a second. So, Ellie, and then you went on and had Aiden. So you had already had one child when Ellie was born.
Yep.
And so went on and built a beautiful restaurant in Evergreen, Colorado, and have been very successful doing that. Your mom has been battling cancer. You have lost other people to cancer. And life has really given you a spin around. And in the last 2 years, you have been struggling with the loss of your youngest son, who passed away from a seizure on your birthday, which was also his birthday, correct?
Well, he died 2 days after our birthday.
So, with all of that, you have been an inspiration to me over the years
Oh,
on moving forward and also expressing your grief and sharing your grief and being a strong advocate for processing emotions and being honest with your feelings and really doing what you have to do to heal and move forward. And I know that some days you do feel like you've moved forward, and other days you feel like you will never be able to move forward. So we can talk about all that too, but it's a lot. But you are someone that I literally look at you as a beacon of hope to so many people that are going through really, really difficult things. And I'm so proud of your heart and the love that has just keeps glowing from you. So let's
mm,
start there.
okay.
That's my version. I'd love to hear your version.
Well, yeah. Working with you and Steamboat was so fun and so amazing, and I was so happy at that point in my life, and enjoying being a mom and working, pretty full time, but it didn't feel like it because we were in an environment that really made you feel healthy and happy and Earth Mama, right?
Mhm.
And on Christmas morning, I got pregnant with Ellie, and that journey led me away from you because having two kids now, and I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So we had to, follow the money and be famous chefs and move around the world, and that kind of came crashing down when Ellie was born. And unbeknownst to us, she was born with a missing portion of her 15th chromosome, one that had never been documented before, the actual section of the chromosome, and also cranial synostosis and tetralogy of Fallot. It's a condition where the heart has a hole in it, and I think in the 50s they called them blue babies, but her heart was actually misshapen and almost backwards, and they gave her days to live, not years, not. And that was this pretty heavy blow.
Yeah.
You know, we were living in Nantucket. It was ideal there, and Grayson was at the beach every day, and we went from that to 9/11 happening, and just a few days later, as the world's in shambles and chaos and panic, I'm giving birth to a child, and emergency C-section. It was just overwhelming, to be honest. And I woke up and I was in a hospital in Boston, and they told me my baby had, days maybe. And those days started turning into weeks. And, my poor little boy is living in a hotel with my mother. My dad's coming to take turns, helping, and it just kind of spun out of control. And I decided with my husband and through the help of some ethics boards that we needed to take her home, and we wanted her to die in a peaceful environment, not in the hospital. So we did that. And we ended up going to Curtis's grandmother's home, which is on the East Coast in New York. And we were there for a few months and seeing doctors and just a world we weren't used to. I even called Oprah and got one of her producers and begged her to help me.
Oh,
How delusional was I?
you
Um,
are a resourceful girl. I love you for that.
well, they didn't call me back, but
You
um,
tried.
I tried. That was the important part. But then I started realizing she wasn't dying, and we were spending our entire savings, and we had no home, and Curtis didn't have a job because we were doing the seasonal thing. And so, to keep busy, I started looking for jobs for him. And we ended up back here in Colorado in a little town called Netherland. And we lived a pretty peaceful existence there for a year and a half. And Ellie started to get worse. The things she said would happen, some of them didn't happen. She smiled, she ate. She was just like a normal baby, and she was beautiful, and she was so easy to love. And I got one of those four-wheel drive strollers, and I would take her to places now we go to. And Grayson says to me, "How in the hell did you come up here with two little kids and one on oxygen?" And I said, I was determined. I was
Yeah.
going to give her the best life for whatever time she had with us.
Oh.
And then that year, she was born in 21, and unbeknownst to me, you can get pregnant while you're nursing. I got pregnant with Aiden, and Ellie started to decline. We made the decision to move to Baltimore so that we could see doctors at Johns Hopkins, which we did. Two of the best. Actually, Ben Carson was her neurosurgeon consult, and another man named Duke Cameron, who was just exceptional. And he performed after a few months. That was in May. We moved there in October. He performed a 12-hour heart surgery that repaired everything, but you start to learn in that medical environment that doctors are really great at fixing. It's the healing part. And after more than 90 days in the ICU, in the NICU, we had to make a conscious decision to let her go because she could have stayed alive on machines. And something Curtis and I were on the same page about was that if she couldn't sustain her own life, it was important for us to let her go. And there's a religious woman next to me who accused me of killing my kid, and she begged me not to. And, and I said, if it's God's will, if
Yeah.
it's truly God's will, when we remove this equipment, she'll breathe. A miracle will happen. And her son was 16, never been off a ventilator. I didn't judge her for that. That's her path. And for me, it was not that I didn't love my daughter. I did. That I didn't want her to suffer. And I know that I wouldn't want that. And so life went on, and I had this beautiful little boy who I needed to care for. And he kept me busy. And after a while, we decided to go back to Nantucket. And after Nantucket, we went to Vegas. We were on that train of, we're going to own a restaurant, or who knew what we were thinking? Everybody wants to be rich and famous, right? Well, once we had the boys, I just wanted to settle into this life of, wow, look what we did. Look at these beautiful little creatures. And I was also grieving. But having those two, you didn't have a lot of time to slow down and cry. I had my moments, but mostly I just kept going because that's what they needed. And of course, then we moved back to Colorado and we built the restaurant. And I say I built a home because really here I am today interviewing here.
Mhm.
This is my home. I built this. This is like part of me. And I raised my kids here. And of course, my mother got cancer in 2015, I believe she was first diagnosed, 14 or 15. And that's taken me back and forth a lot, juggling the restaurant, the kids. But Aiden had his first seizure, which I didn't see it. So I was like, no, I think he's just a really crazy sleeper. He's like sleeping with a tornado. And my older son said, no, Mom, I think it was a seizure. And so we went to a doctor and they said, well, sometimes it happens. No real definitive anything. I think he was 16. And then nothing again until he was 18 that we knew of. And they only happened while he was asleep. So sometimes I would hear a noise up there and I wouldn't know if it was boys wrestling or a dog, and oftentimes I started to think I better go check. And there were times I found him in a laundry basket upside down. And that took me on a whole different journey of the restaurant became secondary. Not that it was ever before the kids, but it was definitely how we pay the bills. Um, COVID happened. So to get an appointment to see a neurologist was absolutely impossible. They did most of his care via Zoom. And of course, I seem like the crazy emotional woman that I actually probably am. But she said, I have to hear from him. I have to know what he wants. And by this time, he was 18. And so they don't really consider the parents' opinion. And Aiden wanted to make this stop. And I wanted it to stop too. I wanted everything to stop. The COVID, of course, COVID was like, oh my God, pivot. What are we going to do? How are we going to make this work? And thankfully, I have a wonderful team of people who have worked for me for a long time who stuck by us and helped us navigate the nightmare of COVID and sell groceries, which I learned a valuable lesson. You don't make any money in groceries. Um, so we get through all that. We recreate our restaurant. We recreate everything else. Aiden seems to be great. And then I kept him home that first year that he graduated because I didn't feel he was ready after going to school on Zoom when he went. And
Mhm.
B, I was scared to let him go because I didn't want him to sleep alone at night.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone to not check on him. And so after staying home for a year, working at the restaurant, working around the ranch, he's a good boy. He
Mhm.
looked at me and said, Mom, I'm going to college. And I wanted him to. I wanted him to
Mhm.
live his life to the fullest. And so, with the help of some medication that he decided to go on, he thought he had it under control. And for the first, I would say he went down in July. He went to Gunnison, and I live up here in Evergreen. It's about a 4-hour drive. I was going back and forth almost weekly because he would dislocate his shoulder, which we learned was associated with having violent seizures in his sleep that he didn't remember. And so a month before finals in January or December, I pulled him out of school and requested that he could do his finals from home. And we did. And no seizures. There's a fly in here. I don't know what's happening. Um, he was perfectly seizure free in our presence. And I think it's the calm that we bring to him, the family dynamic, the safety net. He went to Arkansas with his brother for a week and then came home. We celebrated our birthday. He was supposed to go to Mexico with me, but he wanted to go back to school and meet with his counselors and let them know that, he wasn't giving up on school, that he was just going to take the semester so we could go to Mayo Clinic. And went to sleep the night of the 8th and didn't wake up. That has been more than any other challenge that I have faced. The most soul wrenching phone call anyone could ever get. I feel like I died too. So, how do you get out of bed every day? How do you want to get out of bed every day? The first 6 months, I tried to drink myself to death. And I'd already put on some weight because, the stress, going back and forth to Gunnison, worrying about him not sleeping, the restaurant, I just gotten a handle on things from COVID when all this happened. There's those moments where you say, I wish it was me. I would have traded with him in a heartbeat. And then I think about that. Like, what would he be like without me in his life? Would I want him to stay in bed all day and drink a bottle of tequila? No, I don't want that. And I know that he doesn't want that for me. So I had to really roll in it, and that's who I am. I'm emotional and loving, but I didn't feel loved anymore by my God. I didn't feel like anybody's got me. My marriage is falling apart. My life feels like it's in shambles. And I can't fix that by myself. I can't save Aiden. It was apparently his time to go.
Uh-huh.
So you have to move on and try to find acceptance for that, and then relive it and roll in it and cry in it and ask yourself all kinds of crazy questions and have these crazy regrets that you didn't do more sooner. But in the end, this is what I get. This is my life. So do I stay in bed and eat Swedish fish? My guilty son. Or do I get up and go kick ass and try to make a difference and help my mom as much as I can and be a part of life again, because I know that my son would want that for me.
And I have watched you do that. A lot of us have had the honor of watching you do that. And the fact that you have not lost the passion and love in your soul
Oh,
for,
I have temporarily, while the other things were taking so much of my energy and my heart. All that just became background noise. But then, like I said, roll in it, and then it comes back to you.
yeah,
You find it again.
yeah,
Hopefully.
yes. So tell me about the days that you're having now that are good days.
Well, I've learned that there's the key to this, and it's to stay busy. In the car, I'm a mess. God forbid a song come on. And that kid had, such a vast collection of music that, it could be anything from Miley Cyrus to Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
I find myself in a puddle, but that's okay. I consider that like exercise. You got to get it out, and then you find the joy. I come to work, and I was here last night till 2 a.m. recarpeting my office and filing and getting my head wrapped around Thanksgiving, because I'm going to go take care of my mom, have dinner with her on Thanksgiving. So I've got to make sure everything for my guests is perfect and they know how I like it. And luckily I have a really great crew here that understands my passion. So, and they're happy to see it coming back, I think.
Huh? You've
So
always had a lot of vision.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, without it, you're just floundering,
Yeah.
and I have those days.
Yeah.
It's okay. You forgive yourself for
Yeah.
that.
It really is okay. So tell us about the best advice you've ever gotten. Everything you've been through. I know that people have given you advice you maybe didn't even want to hear the whole time, but through like life in general, as your mom is battling cancer, all of those things, when you lost, was it your cousin that passed away?
Yeah, he died right
Yeah.
after Aiden. Yeah, he's
So I know that people sometimes give advice that you don't even ask, solicit, but in
I don't
general,
I don't know if it's the best advice I've been given, but what I've realized to come around more than once is that um, you'll never get over it. It's never going to be better. I hate when people say, "Oh, you look like you've gotten over it." I hate that. I'm never going to get over it. It's a wound that is. It might as well have taken my face off or ripped my heart out. But in time, you can heal, and you've got to give it time, and that's with anything, not just losing your children or looking for a career or it's just let it unfold and let the healing start with you accepting what happened maybe or acceptance. Okay, and I'm still not even there. I wish I was there. I'm still in a little bit of denial. I can't believe this happened, but this is my life and I'm dealing with it. So I know that in time, I know a lot of people don't feel that way and a lot of people end up taking their own lives because it feels so challenging. And trust me, I've had those thoughts. My luck, I get stuck on the other side of the glass and I wouldn't get to play with the kids when we all get where we're going.
yeah,
So, I think like that. And I have another son that I live for. And I want to see how his life unfolds. And so time will heal, but it's not going to make it go away. And it's not going to erase what happened, but you can heal. So I guess
so go ahead.
just give yourself time, give time to it, find your acceptance in time. That's the most useful advice I've been given.
There you go. What advice do you have that you've learned that you would give to other people now? Is it the same advice?
Um, my my boys again, I'm very close to them, and I've said this to them for years, and what I've said is, hey, whatever you want to be really great at it. Or I tell them if you want to own a shoe store, try on a whole bunch of shoes. It's not going to come easy or readily, but try on some shoes. And my boys thought that meant something completely different. I found out later. But what I actually was trying to say was, you know, who cares if you don't know what you want to be right now?
Yeah.
I mean, look at you, look at me. We've evolved into completely different people from where we started, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so that's what I got.
Yeah.
That's
Interesting. What are you striving for now? Like you wake up, I know you always want to do your best. That's one thing I've always loved and admired about you is you show up and you have a standard for what you want your guest experience to be at the restaurant. And everyone does expect that from you, but I think like are you clear about the fact that life is messy and nobody's really perfect?
oh yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I have in the summer. I have like almost 50 employees, so I've seen just about everything a person could possibly see. I guess what am I striving for? Right now I'm giving myself a lot of grace, and I'm
Good.
saying get through each day and do what you can. I have a saying, and I say it to a lot of my guests who are afraid to complain or passively aggressively complain on social media. Look, I get it. We mess up. That happens. Um, and I appreciate the feedback because we can only be great if we know where our deficits lie. So, on a personal note, I know what my deficits are. And so, just waking up and putting on a little makeup and doing my hair and getting dressed is, hey, I'm winning.
Yeah.
Whatever I do after that is icing because I think, at least for me in the situation that I'm in, it'd be a lot easier to just stay in bed and feel sorry for myself and wiggle through this nightmare that I feel like I'm in. But instead, I wake up and I hit it head on and try to be the best that I can at this stage where I am, and I'm not perfect by
Yeah.
any means.
Well, one of the things that I talk a lot about is honoring certain things. And I have watched you over the years. You have for years done a evening in Ellie's honor. You do good with that uh, terrible catastrophe in your life, but you honor her still to this day every year with an incredible dinner of her life and the difference that she made, and you use that money to make a difference in other lives. And so you are now also doing that with Aiden and his memory. And he was a huge soccer player, knew a lot of kids, very involved in a lot of
Rugby player.
rugby. You're right.
He played
I
rugby.
will.
He was
He's
a
a
great.
rugby guy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm now watching you do that with his life and honoring all of who he was and creating not only an opportunity for yourself to heal, but for other people to heal because we all ended up. I knew Ellie. I didn't get to know Aiden very well. Um, I don't know that I ever even met him, but I did know and love Ellie. And so all of us, I think, through you, get to continue to love her and honor her. So where does that strength come from?
I think it's like the mama lion thing. You know, they're my babies. They'll always be my babies. And I don't want to forget them. I don't want the world to not know the beauty of them. So sharing the stories, sharing their personalities, the photos. A lot of people criticize the photo thing, like it makes you sad, and you know, you can see who cares and who doesn't. And I don't do it for anyone other than myself. I'm doing it because it helps me. I can create a memory online and it'll flash up next year. And it
Yep.
might make me cry, but it's still going to be there he is, there she is. There's my kids. I have 3 kids.
Mhm.
So I'm not doing Ellie's Eve anymore. It stopped during COVID, obviously. But I can say we did raise a little over $500,000 in revenue over the years that we did do it. Um, One of my counselors told me that I was opening up a wound each year every time I decided to do it. And he was right in some ways. But I did do a lot of good, and I feel really great about that. And I am going to do something in Aiden's honor. I still haven't figured out what it is. But I want to help kids go to college. I want to help kids like Aiden who were outdoorsmen, who had a passion for rugby, saving the planet. Um, you know, the kid was, we didn't have internet at our house, so my kids played outside.
Mhm.
um, I want to find kids like him who weren't top of the class. They're not getting all the free money.
Yeah.
The kids who struggle in school, who have dyslexia or something going on that prevents them from being the best student. They're still deserving of a look. And I want to bring awareness to that. Aiden wasn't the standout student. His brother, forget about it. He had straight A's if he wanted. On a good day, he had a C. But he took his ACT and scored almost a perfect score. And the ACT board was like, hey, wait a minute. His grades don't line up with this. And the school
Right.
said, oh, you got to know this kid.
Yeah.
So Aiden was different. He really struggled in school and it was a challenge. And he felt bad about that. And I was like, look, you're doing great. For
Mhm.
look what you've overcome. He was dyslexic, dysgraphic. He did fantastic in life. And I was looking so forward to seeing where that took him. And I didn't
Mhm.
get the opportunity to know Ellie, of course. She was 2. But what I did know was there was magic in there. And
Yeah.
her blue eyes that would just talk to you without words.
Yep.
She gave me strength. All of my children have given me strength. And I know that I was put here
Yeah.
to continue the legacy of all 3 of them. I
Yeah.
don't know what Grayson's going to do with his life. He's a fly fishing guide in Steamboat, and he loves it there, and hopefully he can stay there. It's his passion, and I know that he and his brother had a plan for that. So
Yeah.
both the kids live in all of us.
That's awesome. I love the fact that one of the things that I have witnessed about you in your life is that you love so much. Kind of, you already said it a little bit with Ellie, but one thing that we believe in common is that love wins and that if you love something, you let it go. And in your case, I have watched you love your children in such an incredibly profound depth that you have just let them go and be and do and experience so much life and so many experiences and so many incredible adventures that they've been on. And you have created that life for them. And through your pain and through everything else, you just set your priority on the life that you wanted your kids to know, which is life is meant to be lived. And before we hit record today, we even had that conversation. 30 years passed real quick because when you're living, and that's one thing that you and I have in common as well, we definitely live life. And I admire that in you. I've always admired that in you. And I just love the way that you loved them enough to let them go, to be everything that they wanted to be, to grow into their own sense of self rather than, you know, you didn't stifle them ever. It just doesn't feel that way. It feels like you go.
Kids are just like it, I think the word is ephemeral. You know, one minute they're, and then they blossom and they become something else. And gosh, I should have had 8 kids. I really did enjoy being their mom
Yeah.
and
Well,
running a business with the kids. You know, I'm sure they love and hate me. They had a nickname for me. It was the Dragon Lady, and that's because I am their friend, but first and foremost, I'm their mom.
yeah,
So when I needed to be Dragon Lady, um, but I didn't want to detour who they were going to become or what they're going to be with my
right.
own ideologies. I mean, hopefully there's some in there that keep them out of jail or
Uh-huh.
crazy. But and I'm confident of that.
Yes.
But thank you for that compliment.
Well, and I also, when I think about you, I think of someone who is interestingly free spirited, but also disciplined. Like you do have a really interesting blend of those two personality traits of being very visionary and artistic, but also got to do what you got to do when it needs to get done. And so that makes you a good business owner. What's that?
Pragmatic.
Yeah, yes, definitely. So, any other wisdom that you would like to share today? I have a
Um,
feeling we're going to be talking to you again, but for today,
um, take the trip, take the pictures, and love unconditionally. You know, you're not guaranteed a tomorrow, and nor is your loved one. So make sure that you're square in that arena with your love of your family and your friends, people that matter. Because, man, yeah, I'm very irritated, and this is something I should share with all the people in the world. My child did not have his voicemail set up, and he's had a phone for at least 10 years. I want to call his phone and hear his voice. I want those voice messages. And this generation of instant gratification, where we are now, um, nobody sets up their voicemail boxes. Make your children set up their voicemail boxes because you just never know, which is such a stupid thing to think is important, but it is. I want to hear his voice, and I
yeah,
can't. So I don't know. I guess that's all I got. I'm not
love
a,
it.
I'm not, I'm a work in progress, Crystal. I told you this before when you first asked. I'm not gonna ever say that I'm 100% have my shit together because I don't. That's real.
No one does.
I'm
It
trying
is
to.
a fallacy.
It
Yeah,
is, and as imperfect as I know I am, I'm trying, and I think as long as you keep getting up and trying and And if you have love in your heart, you'll succeed
Yep.
at everything.
Well, I love you.
I
I'm
love
proud of you. Thank you for taking this time today. Um, I look forward to our next conversation.
you. Me too. And
You
I'll
have
be
an
evolved by then, I hope.
well, rock on, girl. Big hugs to your mom. And I'm so thrilled that she's just rocking on along.
She is hanging in there.
She is. You guys are a lot alike. I love your absolute determination. Tenacity is a big part of who you are as well. And I love
Agreed.
you for that.
A positive outlook and a positive will take you far.
Amen to that. All right, my dear, I will let you go for now, and I will look forward to the next conversation.
Thank you. Love you.
Have a good rest of your day.